we're gonna watch the Actman's video about Call of Duty World at War. This is where it started, and this is also, for some, where it finished. So without further ado, let's get right into this, shall we? Here we go. Incredible intro. I do miss Call of Duty intros like this. And it does kind of suck that Call of Duty Vanguard doesn't have something like this. I'm gonna lie. The acting, man, what's the negative inverse mean of that?
My God.
The misbehaving
that
female
gives me shivers every time I see it.
Oh, that didn't
Call
sound
of
right.
Duty World at War was the last game in this enormous franchise to be based in the 1940s. Until that other game came out.
And this was also before Vanguard, so chat, this is an F in the chat.
World at War harkens back to a time when the COD series wasn't in assembly line production, made just to print money.
There it is, boys! That's Call of Duty Vanguard! Woo! Yeah!
World War II COD
yes,
game,
baby!
and for replicating the same things that made
Let's
Modern
go!
Warfare's multiplayer great, and implementing them into the World War II setting. Alongside
I miss playing good MP, man. Maybe I will actually try Vanguard's
and the
MP.
addicting Nazi Zombies game mode. World at War
There you
is
go. Krups is
arguably
going
the most
crazy. I can
important
hear
game
him
in the series.
I can hear him in my
besides
headphones
COD 4,
right now, boys.
which I think we can all agree is a masterpiece that changed the FPS genre in more ways than we can count. The reaction to the Infinite Warfare trailer was a plea for good old-fashioned boots-on-the-ground combat.
Even though IW gave us one of the best zombies experiences,
but it was
which
always
is so
perplexing
weird, bro.
to think how a franchise that was made to honor the veterans of the past and their call to duty could go from this.
On McCullough, 2 rules. Rule 1, you're no good to me dead. Rule 2, what difference does it make? You'll all
Damn, Sag gameplay. What the heck? I know, bro. That is a great way of comparing it. Like, actual grit to just, like, cinematic garbage. Exactly, dude. Even though that's just Rick Toffin's player model.
I'm Infiltration Recon Unit R15.
Was it the demands of the publishers?
Stop the
lack
cap.
of vision and originality? Did
Stop
COD
the
become
cap.
corrupted over time? Whatever the
Yes,
reason,
Fish
COD World
AI.
War II was a massive
Yes, sir.
disappointment for me and many other longtime fans. To go back to their roots, to hype it up so much after milking the futuristic warfare style dry, and to fail in the eyes of the hardcore fan base and veterans of the series, was enough reason for me to take a trip back to the last World War II
chat,
COD game.
I feel
Was
like
it
World
really
at
as
War
good
is
as
still
we
gonna be
remembered?
better than
Do we all
Vanguard
judge COD World War
and
II
World War
through
II.
rose-tinted glasses of the past?
I don't think
Or
so.
was there something valuable to Call of Duty's formula?
I think it's just
Something
because it's
worth
actually
looking
trying to
into
be
the
real.
past, hidden in World at War. Whatever might be
That's
found
my
in this
boy
game,
right there.
it's time we go back to uncover what, if anything, it was. So let's link the mainframe, take out those fucking PT boats, and raise the Russian flag
He said the
straight into
Doris thing.
this.
How could he do that?
There's a certain misconception that Call of Duty was always a multiplayer first type of series, with the campaign being
That
a
is
shallow,
true.
tacked-on necessity.
Yeah.
Used only to market
It actually
the game
was
and show
before
off.
it was initially
But this
campaign.
wasn't always the case. In fact, it was the opposite.
Yep.
The franchise, in my eyes, began as an homage dedicated to the veterans who sacrificed their lives for the preservation of liberty. At least that's how the end credits put it. But the game also served as a vessel for destructive fun.
When do you see that
responsive
nowadays,
controls,
though? Seriously.
and fast-paced gameplay.
When do you see that
so
nowadays?
COD was something that could get you interested in history, teach you something about it, while also simply being a fun game. The war quotes when you die, man, that shit was deep. But my point is, Call of Duty initially was a campaign-driven game, with multiplayer being somewhat of an afterthought. This all changed, of course, but just keep that in mind.
I know, then you gotta
People
feel
wonder
through
why
it.
we
It's like, what the
compare World
hell?
at War to COD World War II so much. Some think it's unnecessary to look at the past so fervently, but I say it's important to understand where we come from. I say look to the past so you can act in the present to
Some
make
real
a better
grit,
future.
boys. Some
Fuck,
COD
that's what
3
history
gameplay
class
right
is
there.
all about. That's what
I
World War
agree.
II is all about.
I
So you
agree.
can expect a little bit of history in this video, and hopefully we
That's
can look
good,
at
though.
what the franchise has done
Because, like,
in the
chat,
past that
what
made
is
it
the
so
history?
popular in the
I feel
first
like I know
place.
more history
Because
for
sometimes
zombies
we lose track of what got us where
than
we are,
MP.
and we lose track of ourselves.
And I just can't
Anyways, I
believe
said
that.
World at War has an unapologetic campaign. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, it doesn't give a
means
fuck
you
about
get
your
effed.
feelings. It
Exactly.
could care less if you're offended by Nazis, the swastika,
That is
by
true.
mass killing,
Iron
or
Cross,
any of that
can I get
shit.
an old
The game
mega
says,
low
fuck
for
your
it.
feelings.
Exactly.
You're gay. All it wants to do is portray World War II
Huh?
with no restraints.
What did you just say?
I'm going to share with you an immensely important and relevant quote, and I want you to remember this shit as we talk
Zombies
about the
doesn't
story
even
and
have
campaign.
real history,
This comes
by the
from
way.
Tim O'Brien's book,
But I
The
remember
Things
more.
They Carried, a novel you might have had to read in high school. So here it is. A true war story is never moral. It does not instruct nor encourage virtue, nor suggest models of proper human behavior.
Yeah, it just
nor
shows that it's
restrain men
awful,
from doing the things
that
men have
everything was
always
terrible.
done. If a story seems moral, do not believe it. If at the end of
Exactly.
a war story you feel uplifted, or if you feel that some
Yes.
small bit of rectitude has been salvaged from the larger waste, then you have been made the
Exactly.
victim of a very,
Very
old
true.
and terrible lie.
Very
There is
true.
no rectitude whatsoever. There is no virtue. As a first rule of thumb, therefore, you can tell a true war story by its absolute and uncompromising allegiance to obscenity and evil.
Yes,
This
sir.
just means when you write, film, or depict a war story, you must have no reservations about what you're telling.
Yeah.
If you tell a war story, you need to have the fucking balls to portray it without concerns of morality and virtue and what's right and, oh, how's this gonna affect the children? Now, fuck all that. And this is what World at War does.
'Cause that's
It
what
doesn't
they
give a
were
fuck.
thinking, bruh.
Now, obviously,
That's
this
why
quote
all
doesn't apply
war
to every war
is
story,
applied.
fiction or non.
They
and
never
you could
cared.
argue I'm not using
Sag.
it in the right context.
never
But
cared.
my point is to use this quote because it highlights what feels more authentic and what feels more Hollywood. The game is very
Exactly.
different from the other COD games because the tone is way more serious.
Yeah, like, you would
Lightheartedness and
never
comic
see
relief is
something
ditched
like
in
that.
favor of driving home a dark, unsettling atmosphere. This is in stark contrast to World War II's positive, upbeat, and safe campaign, where America is portrayed as the greatest heroes that ever lived.
Yep.
COD World War II purposely shied away from the controversy that is inherent and integral to the Second World War. It didn't
Yep.
have the balls to portray a horrific war story. It did not have an absolute and uncompromising allegiance to obscenity.
Especially
and
now
evil.
that they're going
To put it
back to
simply,
this time
this is
period
good
twice,
old-fashioned
and they're
Call of
doing the
Duty,
same
but it's
thing
not as archaic
twice.
as the old World War II games. This
Sad
is the era
chat.
of
Can I
COD
get some
where they
Fs
were
in
in
the
the
chat?
fucking
Like, what
zone,
the
man.
hell?
This is when the series was cool. Before it became infested with the MLG tryhard 360
Pro-legger
no-scope
guider.
7-year-olds that joined in during Modern Warfare 2. The early days were what I call the era
Incredible.
of humble, inspired beginnings. Then
Yeah.
the next era was the badass, confident, is cool because he doesn't even
Or
try
the
to be cool.
multiplayer
Rise
period.
to fame and
Really
power.
just the
And in
multiplayer
later
period.
years, it's become the era
The
of
what the F.
manufactured garbage without a soul. Anyways, back to the campaign.
Yep.
It starts off with this fantastic cutscene that uses real World War II footage and molds it in with some fancy editing. It shows you the horrors of war, brings you up to speed
yes.
on where we're at. Production
Some
levels
awful,
rising,
awful footage
men
right
gearing
there.
up for battle. You almost forget you're
Mom,
playing
get
a
the
game at
camera!
this point. This is a brilliant way to remind us what was going on at the time, set the stage, and to create a unique visual style for the cinematics throughout each level. And above
Exactly.
all else, the intro gets you fucking hyped.
Oh,
Members of the Senate, of the House of Representatives,
yeah. Look at this
today,
dude.
December 7th, 1945,
Rocking gameplay, baby.
a date which will live in infamy.
This is patriotic gameplay, boys. Patriotic.
Was suddenly
What can I say?
You're a long-time viewer of 7 years.
What's up,
Love
bro?
the vids, keep up the good work.
What's up, bro? Thanks,
The
homie.
campaign shifts between two fronts and two perspectives. You play as Private Miller, an American soldier fighting the Japanese in the Pacific Theater. And then you play as Dmitry Petrenko, a Russian soldier fighting
And
the
the man
Nazis on the
that's with
Eastern Front.
Reznov.
You
I
begin
think
as
that's
a
why everyone
POW,
loves
and your fellow
Reznov, because
Americans
there's,
are
like,
getting
some actual
tortured,
connection
and his
with
throat
him,
is
you
slit.
know?
Jesus, Mary.
Yes.
That's brutal.
Exactly.
So you get a gun, you take out those dirty Japs. Yeah, shoot them in the... Oh, Sorry, was that offensive? Well, who gives a shit? It's World War II.
2021 be
Fuck
like-
your feelings.
Yeah,
So I talked
exactly.
about this before in my COD
2021
World
be
War
like-
II review, and I want to switch gears and discuss the game.
Chat, what aspect of World at War was the
World at War
best?
has the
Campaign,
annoying
MP, or
invisible
zombies?
wall, just like every other
You
COD
let me know.
game. But here's the big difference. What separates good level design from bad level design, no matter how linear, is player freedom.
Exactly.
It was only occasionally that I bumped
is
into a
very true.
barrier I thought I could go through.
That is
and there
very
were
true.
moments of frustration here and there, but I never felt like I was restricted in how I moved around.
All?
And that's a big lesson
I
modern
agree.
FPS games need to learn.
This is one of the
You
few
can
games
have
where all
set
are good.
paths
And custom
linearity,
zombies on this,
but
bro.
keep your
Oof.
invisible walls and barriers
Fire.
to an absolute minimum. Give me multiple
Customs
ways to
on
move
World at
around.
War were
Create
incredible.
levels that feel expansive, open, and free.
That's
and I
correct.
think World at War does a good, but not perfect, job of that. One thing that stood out to me, because it's been almost 7 years since I played this campaign, is the lack of QuickTime events. I had totally forgotten
The
what it's
lack
like
of
to have
QuickTime
complete
events?
control in a COD game, aside from a few scripted moments.
Interesting.
World at War doesn't waste your time
Oh,
or
there's
slow down the
quick time
game with
events
this
in World War
dumb
II.
shit.
Lamau.
But what really
Bruh.
blew me away was
I
the
did not
unique
play World War
scenarios and
II, so
encounters
that's why.
throughout the
I had
levels.
no idea.
For example, when you fight
That's
the Japanese,
criminal.
it'd have gotten real boring if you just ran through every mission shooting the guys
That's
behind
so
cover.
dumb.
They
Quick
use
time
the
events in
location,
Call of Duty.
battle tactics
Why?
of the time to
Why?
create interesting
Why?
gameplay. The Japanese don't just shoot at you from behind cover. They bonsai charge
You don't have
your
to pay
ass.
for customs on BO3 or World at War. You just gotta download it. Dude, yeah, this mission, the first mission here, this one scared me when I first played it, bro.
Kamikaze, they're playing.
'Cause they just come
Play
out.
dead, set traps and
Yeah.
ambush. They use guerrilla tactics that make them unique and surprise the
Exactly.
player at every turn.
Exactly.
They got ghillie suits to hide in the grass and jump out and surprise you. They snipe you from atop the trees.
Yep.
Pop up from hidden holes in the ground. It's
Yep.
just awesome. In a
Yep.
series where
You're right.
gameplay can be monotonous, straightforward, and often flat out boring,
Yeah,
these
BO3's
twists and
campaign
turns along the way
garble.
spice things up. Anytime a mission feels like it's about to get dull, it ends. So
Yep.
they're all just the right
That's
length.
so
On
true.
the flip side,
That is so
as a
true.
Russian, when fighting against the Germans, it's pretty by-the-books gameplay. But they put more emphasis on story, the characters,
is
and
great.
the motivations of the Red Army.
Yeah.
So essentially, we've
Nikolai
got two
looks
halves of
so
the campaign.
funny in World at
One
War's
that focuses
campaign.
on more unique gameplay, and the other that illuminates the horrors of war aspects,
Yeah.
which makes for a nice mixture. It's like rum and coke. COD games usually have some
No,
type of
that's
tank,
such a
turret,
bad
flying
mixture.
missions,
What are you
etc.
talking about,
But now
bro?
here's another example.
Hell no.
You got this level where you're
Thank you,
flying
Pete.
around shooting at planes, those fucking PT boats, and whatnot.
Exactly.
At first glance, it
Exactly.
seems pretty simple and on rails.
Exactly.
But again, they use this opportunity to create interesting gameplay. You're not just sitting on a turret for 20 minutes, you move back and forth through the ship on different turrets.
Yeah,
so you're
and it's
looking at
cool.
different things.
Exactly.
You start off in the air,
Really
but then
gets
are
you in.
forced to land on the water. Alongside this, now you've got to shoot planes out of the sky and rescue other soldiers trying
That's
to swim to
true.
safety. So instead of being a boring on-rails turret section, Treyarch added elements that differentiate this type of gameplay from its most
Makes it
basic
feel way more
iteration.
realistic,
There's more
yeah.
going on than just the shooty.
Even though the animation rough. That pulling animation
A final
rough.
example. They take this scenario of sniping one guy and turn it into an experience that teaches you to be patient and wait for the right moment.
Dang,
a lesson
it's
you'll
true.
need for the rest of this mission.
Yep.
They use the setting of being a survivor amongst slaughtered Russians in Stalingrad and use it to teach you about stealth and sniping.
And
You
also
even
the
get an
Richthofen
opportunity
model,
to
bro.
assassinate a high-profile German officer.
The Richthofen. I love the Richthofen models in it. Oh, there he goes. Bye-bye. Chat, that's all 4 Zombies games compiled into
Now,
one
that's a
thing right
sniping
there.
mission done
Into
right.
5 seconds.
This is Call of Duty World at War's gameplay in a nutshell.
Exactly.
It's exactly what you'd expect from a COD game, with all the cliche types
I
of levels.
forgot this game
but
has
at the same
tanks.
time, it totally surprises you.
Yeah, aren't there tanks in the multiplayer of this game as well? I forgot. This was one of the
Whether it's with the
few
story or
games
the
that
unique
add that.
mechanics/gimmicks, World at
That
War
was a
is just
weird-
a
yeah,
blast
that was a
to
weird
play
gimmick
through.
for sure.
And with all the COD games out there, with how many years it's been, that's saying a lot. Oh yeah, and the shooting feels great too. Something about these old weapons and being harder to hit your targets than normal, it just feels
Exactly.
right. It's like, it's World War II, and the guns are kind of shitty, but it's a good kind of shitty. It's a rugged
Dude,
shitty.
Yes,
Rugged shitty.
but
Never
it
thought
doesn't
I'd say those
feel
2
like
words
that.
together.
It
But
doesn't
anyway,
feel like that in the
quick
new
note,
World War
I
II
really don't
games,
like
bro.
seeing hit markers in single-player campaigns. Reason being, I
Yep.
want to be immersed in whatever
Black
it
Ops
is
4
I'm
zombies
doing.
be
Now,
like-
if I see a little marker in the middle of the screen that tells me I killed somebody, that takes
Yeah,
me out
it's
of the game.
nice and
Without
small
hit
in
markers,
Halo,
you
which
become
is
a much more
nice.
thorough player. You play more carefully because you never know when an enemy might still be alive in a last stand, or if you didn't blast enough
Exactly.
holes in him to finish him off. And hit markers take that exciting feeling, the tension, the immersion, and the fear away from the game in a small but noticeable way. The soundtrack of the single player is really good.
It
and let me
is,
tell you,
yeah.
I don't
It's
often
something I
remember or
definitely
listen
remember.
to Call of Duty soundtracks outside of the game. but
Other
this
than
one stuck
zombies,
with
me neither,
You
yeah.
got real somber, unnerving songs that slow things down
Especially
and give you
the
chills.
end of the World at War campaign. Yeah, this mission is particularly when you're pretending to be dead. I remember watching this and be like, holy, bruh. What are you even supposed to do? And then, yeah, the classic stinger
Chills.
sounds.
Ooh, I got the chills, boy. Then you got badass guitar riffs that gives
Hell
it
yeah.
a bombastic feeling when you're running around shooting people.
Yeah. Treyarch, bro, this is Kevin Sherwood, boys. Drinks in the chat. Drinks in the chat. Kevin Sherwood just ripping on the guitar. Yeah. Especially amidst the gunfire. It makes it feel so much more realistic. I agree with that.
The music enhances the campaign and gameplay in all the right ways.
Yeah.
The difficulty is pretty good and mostly fair, but people have asked me for
Other
tips
than
on
on,
how
like,
to beat it on
realistic
veteran.
or
The
veteran,
trick is,
yeah.
don't play it on veteran.
Amen.
Nade spam for days,
Amen.
boy. Anyways, back to the story. On the American side,
Thank you,
things
Mad
are
Lad,
pretty
for the
simple.
5, boys.
The characters and dialogue
Big
could
ups
have
to
been
Mad
written
Lad.
better, more unique. You don't really feel too attached to Roebuck or that other guy. But I look at it and I see the American side as
I don't
more
even
of a
remember his
vessel
name,
for
bro.
immersion in the Pacific theater and for gameplay reasons. So it's
Yeah.
passable. The
It's
Russian
more about
side
the
of
story
things,
than personality,
goddamn,
though.
is it brutal. The
Yeah.
game really dives into the Russian perspective, how they view the war and the Germans.
Yeah.
And Viktor Reznov is just a beast. This
Yeah.
side is all about pushing into the heart of the Reich. For Mother Russia. You're just some soldier who's been left to die in the middle of Stalingrad, but you cheat death and link up with Reznov.
That's why everyone fucking loves this, bro. You don't get characters like this guy anymore. That's literally the thing. That's literally the main thing, bro.
The overarching plot and story is simplistic, gets the job done, but more importantly, it serves as a way for players to imagine and
Are you guys going
experience
to Terry
war
Black's later
themselves,
today?
and
Probably
think about
not.
the decisions soldiers had to make back then. Keeping in line with that Tim O'Brien quote, World at War doesn't romanticize these huge conflicts.
Yeah,
the
it's
game
true.
is not so much worried about whether you're rooting for the Americans or not. Its only goal is to depict these battles in the most grounded yet brutal way possible.
Yep.
It has balls. When you awake amongst piles of dead and you see Germans shooting the survivors, you're like, well shit, that's fucked. When you're creeping through the jungle and one of your fellow soldiers gets hung in the air and explodes, wow, well that's fucked up. And these moments are scattered all
Exactly.
throughout the campaign.
You don't get
from
this.
the Russian perspective.
You do
Start
not
off
get
with
a
the
lot of
goal
this
just
in today's
surviving.
day and age.
But over the course of time, Reznov and the other Russians get more and more bloodthirsty.
And they get more-
merciless. There's
yeah, they get more
infighting.
upset.
Some soldiers wonder if it's really
Feels
worth
like
it
they're
to
actually
be
there.
as merciless as the Germans. And Reznov thinks it's the right thing to do.
Dmitri, finish those rats.
Nikolai,
Once
bro.
again, you cheat death. Our tanks are ready to smash this line and... Chernov! I'm not hearing gunshots.
There is no point, Sergeant. They're already bleeding.
Dang. Ultimus Nikolai giving some respect, boys. Let's go. This is why we love Nikolai, bro. This is why he's the head, boys. Oh, and then you just donkey them. What the
You as a
heck?
player understand you
That's
gotta hate the
foul.
Nazi regime, but that doesn't excuse what the
That's
Russians
foul.
are doing to achieve that. Killing men who surrender in
Holy.
cold blood, lighting them on fire, it's just messed up,
Yeah,
man.
it's
The
definitely
observant player
messed
will
up.
notice these moments are shown more and more often the farther you get into the heart of Germany, and
Yep.
they're not always in your face. My advice is take your time and look around. You might see something interesting. So the story carries a certain weight, a feeling of how war changes people. Reznov is proof of that.
This is the truth.
Which do you think will
Chat,
win
like,
this home?
you don't get any also
Fighting about this
villainous
war or
characters
fighting
in Call of Duty campaigns anymore. I feel like the villainous characters you get are just not that great either. Like, they don't really do evil
Show me
good.
that you are willing to
You know?
die for it.
Like, there's always sort of a moral reason as to why everyone's evil. Chat, Nikolai, no! He's
Years
dead.
ago, I took several
Nikolai
fiction
dead.
writing classes, and one
Nikolai
thing we
dead.
learned is that violence,
Oh.
gore, sex, drugs, all that
So
taboo,
sad.
controversial material
So sad.
must serve a purpose to the story. If it's just there for gratuitous sake, then it adds nothing. World
I
at War
agree.
doesn't fall into the hole of
I agree.
violence for the sake of violence. When you shoot some dude's legs off and watch him writhe in pain, it gives you the shivers. That's war. It's messed up. The
That's
level of
effed.
gore, blood, and violence is
effed.
perfectly in line with World at War's dark atmosphere and really enhances the experience. It unsettles
Dude,
the player.
my man just took out
The finale
Tokyo.
is
What the
epic as
fuck?
hell. You, just a
It's
private in the
crazy
Red
how
Army, one
literally
amongst
premise was
millions,
made from the World at
rises
War
above
campaign
death,
as well. A lot of
destruction
people
and
don't
carnage.
realize that, or
You are
Ultimus,
the
I
one
should
who
say.
carries the Russian
But
flag
yeah, Ultimus
atop
was
the
literally made
Reichstag.
from this.
Being able to play through and
Yeah, this
experience
moment
what
was
is
cool.
depicted in this famous photograph is such
Yeah.
a chilling experience that leaves an imprint on you. It
Yeah.
is something you will never forget doing in a video game. And at the end of it all, after the dark, depressing, and depraved experience you've just been through, World at War reminds you what this was all about.
Yep.
You see, COD World War II made the mistake of showing this message at the beginning.
I
but it's far more
agree.
powerful
I
at the
agree.
end. And as
Yeah.
you see the credits roll, you reflect
gotta
on
know
what, you've
what you're
just been
doing.
through, the fun you've had, and the atrocities you've seen.
Chat, one in the
You
chat
put
if I
down
should
the
try
controller,
Vanguard.
You're glad
Vanguard's
it's finished.
campaign. I would like to compare it to each of these games and like see like how they would go. Here we go, boys. This is what we're here for. Drake's in the chat, baby. Yee-hoo! Yee-hoo, baby! Yes, sir. Thank God. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm here, boys. See, this man's getting PTSD right now. And he's playing World of War, bro. This is Krupp's gameplay, boys. Krupp's
Bro,
POV.
The first time I saw this
Yo.
and was transported to some abandoned house, I basically shit my pants. And I don't feel any less manly saying that. I
Oh, hell
shit
yeah.
my pants.
It started
Revealing
a
an entire
whole.
new
It
mode
started
after
a
beating the
whole other
campaign.
career line
Just
for
wow.
zombies, man. Yep.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Brilliant.
truth.
And it's Nazi zombies, just
Ba-da-ba-da,
bravo.
ba-da-ba-da,
Bravo.
ba-da-ba-da,
But how does the mode
ba-da-ba-da.
hold up after all this time? Well, pretty dang well. To be honest, Nocturne
I would
is
say
pretty
pretty
dated
good.
compared to
It's
the
still
other
being
zombie
made in
maps.
2021
When this
and
came out,
2022.
man, everyone wanted to see how far they could get. And it wasn't just for the high score, it was because it was fun. World at War Zombies was the talk of the town. and
Very
the map
good
was
note.
A great entry
Very good
point.
point.
For what would become a staple
It's
of
not
many
just
COD
about the
games
high
down
rounds.
the line.
Yep.
Honestly, the vast majority of my time spent on World at War was in zombies. I got to like
Amen.
level 20 in multiplayer. But
Amen.
if zombies tracked my progress, I'd have been like 5th prestige or something.
Exactly.
And here's another point.
Exactly.
I basically only played Der Riese
Amen.
and Nocturne Toten. The fact
Dang.
that I could spend so much
Verrucht
time
and Shino
playing
Numa
just
hater.
2 maps
Verrucht
with a
and
single
Shino
game
Numa hater.
mode with only one objective goes to show how addicting and
Unbelievable.
fun it is, no matter when or who you play with. Repairing barricades, getting power-ups,
Yep.
evading the zombies, hitting the mystery box as zombies close in all around
Exactly.
you. It's
Exactly.
heart-pumping defense
It's
mode
still one
at
of
its
my
finest.
only favorite
Now, I thought about
modes
getting
in
the
all
other
of
2
gaming,
DLCs to
even
play the
after
other
10
zombie
years of
maps,
this shit
but
coming out.
God
More than
damn
10
it,
years.
Activision is still charging $10 for that. Dude, that's what I paid for them. Like,
You know what? It's so funny, chat, because I think it's funny how we were upset about the DLC pass, and then now I would actually like that DLC pass to come back. Unironically, I would like it to come back because I think what they're doing now is they're just essentially taking zombies out of the loop without it. So it's crazy how we all didn't want it initially, and now it could potentially mean the death of zombies without it.
like 8 years ago,
That's
just make them free.
insanity
Come
to
on.
think about.
And one thing to mention is
Don't
zombies
make it
were
free.
so freaking
Don't make
cool,
it free.
due in large part to its characters, who were funny,
Don't make it
well
free.
written,
We'll pay
and
you
just
for
plain
better
old
quality
silly.
stuff.
It's my intense love for
So
these
that's
old
one
zombie
point
modes
I
and
definitely
maps that
disagree
makes
on.
COD World War II's take on it disgusting in my mouth.
Chat, I love Final Reich. Final Reich was fun. But the DLC for World War II, I'm going to look at you funny. I'm gonna look at you funny for the rest of my life, bro. Because, yeah, definitely ain't it.
Because the newest game rips away that option of repairing barricades, fortifying your position, and holding out to the end. It forces you to run around
It's more
and
like
do stupid
scary
shit, but
jump
that's never
scare
what made
based.
zombies good. What makes it fun is the simplistic
For some
pleasures.
people, yes.
When you know you
For
can
some
use
people,
a
no.
self-revive or call in a nuke because you paid real money for loot boxes.
Woo!
It takes away every drop
Yeah!
of intensity this
Loot
mode has to
box!
offer.
Loot
Zombies
box!
didn't try to scare you by offering jump scares at every fucking
Yeah,
turn.
the jump scares,
It was
no
scary
mega-lol.
because you were holding out. You didn't know when you were gonna
Yep.
kick the bucket. Nazi
Yep.
Zombies at its core is just about surviving as long as you can, in any way you
I think
can. And
this is
all
why
that
people like
excessive,
Cold War,
useless
especially.
shit, all those extra mechanics and 77 quests like it's goddamn Skyrim, it's
Yep.
unnecessary. It doesn't need to be
Yep.
so structured.
Doesn't
and
need to be in
linear.
every
it's
map.
funny to think
I
about how
agree.
much Nazi Zombies has influenced the franchise since World at War. Hell, it's
agree.
got a whole treasure trove of lore and stories to tell with it. It was
Yep.
like an experimental mode that could have just been a one-off gimmick if people didn't like it.
It's
But it
almost
blo-
like it could have had its own game. Almost like it needs its own video game, chat.
blossomed into a core part of
Criminal.
the Call of Duty experience.
Criminal.
On the multiplayer side of things, I confess, I really didn't play much back in the day, which I 100% regret not doing because the player populations are so low you can basically only find team deathmatch games.
Fuck
But I was
yeah.
able to
And
host some
they're
custom
also
game
hacked
modes and
to
play all
F.
sorts of modes
They're
on
so
all of the
bad.
maps. Now, COD games have always had that one thing that is super
They're so
overpowered and
bad,
people
bro.
hate it. That one thing is the
SXCA.
MP40 and bouncing
Thank you, bro.
beddings. But aside from that, the game is pretty balanced and fun. Shotguns and snipers are a bit harder to use correctly. Hit detection seems a bit off, but maybe that's the lack of strong aim assist.
No,
Class
it
customization is
can't be that
fantastic. You've got so
bad.
many options, it
It can't be that bad.
But there's enough here to really mix and match and
There's
experiment
no
with a bunch
way
of
it was
different
that
builds.
bad.
Where World at War
Jeez.
really shines is in its maps.
That hit
You've got a pretty
detection,
much perfect
holy.
variety in terms of design, size, layout, and visual aesthetic. Dome is one of my
Dang.
favorites because it's basically Nuketown
Dome in
before
World at
Nuketown.
War.
Then you
Dang.
got Cliffside, which is just a perfect map for long-range encounters.
A
You play
lot of
all
these
sorts
maps have
crazy,
also been
stupid
brought
game
back,
types,
which is
like
really
free-for-all
interesting.
shotguns only, snipers only with no zooming.
Bro,
It was such
where
a
is that
blast
man's
because the
bullet
game is
gone?
simplistic at its core. There's no unnecessarily
That was
complicated
literally a miss anyway,
customization,
yeah, I
ridiculous kill streaks, or absurd mechanics. It's just good, simple Call
Oh,
of
this
Duty
map looks like
greatness.
Verrucht. I think this is the
I
one
talked about
Verrucht
map
is based
design a
off
lot
of.
in my World War II review, and I'd like to elaborate on that. See, I gave that game a lot of flack for
Chat.
having only 3-lane maps.
World War II, this World War II, not World at War. World War II or Vanguard.
And truth be told, most FPS maps
From what
are
you
3
guys know.
lanes, or a
I'm
variation
genuinely
of that.
curious.
But here's what you gotta remember. The most important thing newer Call of Duty games need to understand.
Titanfall
There
be
is a
like
difference
sniping
between
motherfuckers
having a
in the
3-lane map and a map that forces you down those 3 lanes.
That's
What do I
true.
mean by that?
Yeah.
Well, sure, World at War has plenty of maps
World
where the
War II?
action goes down 3 paths or lanes.
Nah, man.
However, you have so many options to move around.
Juggernauts,
vertically, side to
boys. You
side,
saw it on the
underneath.
MP
So many
on the right
directions
side
to
there,
take
boys.
that you don't feel confined to 3 lanes. Now here's an example. The map Macon. Macon Bacon.
Oh,
sure, it's got
yes,
3
dude.
general paths
It-
to go
it's
down.
so
although you
much
have this
more than
area
that.
below the docks,
Yeah.
and you can run down that
It is
instead.
so much
Then we've
more.
got Dome. Very
Yep.
small map. Yet gives the
I
player
miss when COD
plenty of
maps had
options.
these different
It
types of
has
levels.
elevation, bit
And
of low
elevations.
ground,
A
and no
lot of
matter
COD
where
maps
you
now are
you can
incredibly
always cut
linear.
through the middle. And it's
Yeah.
a tough thing to explain and show it to you, but it's
Yeah,
something you
it's
feel,
something you have
and
to
that's what's
play.
important.
I agree.
I felt like I had freedom, no matter
I
what
agree. I think a
map
lot
it
of
was on,
old
no matter
CODs
how
had
big
this.
or small.
Yeah.
World at War takes all the best elements from COD 4
Castle
and
and
adds
Dome
them
are
here
turning
to
in
not
Vanguard
only
6.
build
Yeah, that
off
is
of
cool.
COD
Dome
4's
will
formula,
be a good
but put a
inclusion.
unique spin on the World War II era
Castle
of
as well.
gameplay. One last thing to mention about those 3 eras of COD games I talked about. The
yes.
franchise was at its best. It had the most positive reception in this
That's
era.
very true.
And I think I know the reason why.
also 'cause it was
Because Call of Duty
new.
was providing both new and old to fans of the
Yes,
series.
yes,
You had
very
Modern
true.
Warfare, a more modern
When they
take
actually
on
cared
Call of
about
Duty.
catering
And
to
you had World
every
at
single
War,
fan
then
base.
Modern Warfare
One in the
2,
chat
then
if
there
you
was Black
remember.
Ops set during the Vietnam War.
Yes.
You see the pattern here? At this point in COD's life, even though they were creating a new game every year, there was something for everyone. If you didn't enjoy the more modern games, well, you had World at War for that old school charm, and Black Ops 1 as a nice in-between, a fresh take on the Vietnam War. But if you had gotten tired of the World War II sitting, you had Modern Warfare 1 and 2, which told unique stories and used weaponry from a more current and relatable time. And I think this style of new, old is why the COD community was getting more and more upset with every new game, because they were getting burned out on the modern futuristic.
Chat, will we ever go to the future again? I'm genuinely curious. I think now we've kind of gone back to the cycle of old Call of Duty, modern Call of Duty, old Call of Duty, modern Call of Duty. I don't think we're ever going to go back to the future. If we do, there goes my PS5 controller. I think it might be in a couple of years from now. If the next COD is futuristic, I would be shocked, to be honest. Because I think they're going to go to Modern Warfare 2.
On its own terms. And it also
I think that's their plan, to be honest.
Call of Duty's constant success year after year in the palm of its hand.
So what Chop doing in there?
Pacing
More
is
like
the
what my
lesson
controller
here.
doing in there.
Variety, and understanding that COD fans want to experience what the series has to offer in at least 2 different time periods. All in all, Call of Duty World at War is one of the best COD games out there. It's truly fun in all modes of play, which is not something that can be said for the rest of the series.
I fully
the
agree with
campaign
that.
and story holds no reservations.
I would say the
has
worst
balls
part of
to
World at War
depict
is
World War
multiplayer.
II in the most
Solely
brutally
because it's
honest way
effed
it can.
by hackers,
While the
but
overall
not
story
because
and
of the game.
characters aside from Reznov could have been written better and in a way that makes us care, I can see that wasn't Treyarch's goal with this game. It's not
Exactly.
so much character driven. They wanted you to think about this war. They wanted to show you what it was like. Nazi zombies spawned from this game. So much lore, fun, and creativity that has blessed the COD series for many years. Having the last truly good World War II multiplayer in the series, and the way it took the best elements of COD 4 and replicated them, turned it into a multiplayer that pretty much every fan
It sucks
because
World at War was so underrated, especially
War
when it came
was
out.
so awesome.
And it was a great game. Yeah,
But
it really
what did you
didn't
think?
deserve.
When was the last time you played World
the-
at War's
the absolute
campaign?
shilling
Do
it
you
got.
plan on going through it soon? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below.
I'm
Now
about
let's
to be
see what
playing
some
it
of
for
my
Vanguard,
patrons
chat.
thought of Call of Duty World at War. Android Elite says, my mom loves COD campaigns, but
Your
specifically
mom loves COD campaigns. Chat, I'm out of here.